Okay, we're back with 3D Politics, and we're going to move into a topic of healthcare with David Van. What have you got on a topic of healthcare?
Well, I've decided now's the time I'm going to work on pushing back against the corporate medical empire. I'm talking the big hospitals, I'm talking the medical associations, I'm talking about the pharmaceuticals, both the retail and the companies making them. And then the legislature, which is owned by all of them, right? They all have their players in there.
Okay.
And the problem is, we have less and less and less and less liberty to treat our own health care. I am responsible for my health. I should have the authority to make the decisions on my health. They've given everybody else a say except me on many things, unless it's something over the counter.
But to be fair, don't they know more about you than you know about yourself, in all fairness?
Oh, well, Senator Dr. Yen would say this.
They're essentially prioritizing your group association over your individual personhood, because what the way that they do that philosophically is they say, we're going to control what you do for the better of the group.
Yeah.
They make the decision on behalf of the
Well,
group.
there is that, but it is more insidious than that because it comes down to the very statification, if you will, of these private guilds and associations. The medical association is not to be a state board.
Right.
Or there's not supposed to be a state board that says only allopathy, the DOs and the AMA can have people practicing medicine.
Yeah.
What about the chiropractors and the NDs and the naturopaths and holistic health and the homeopaths and things like that? Where can they not get into the competition?
But I think what everyone's forgetting here is that lumping people into groups makes it easier for the people making decisions.
Right.
So, why do you want to give them a hard time? Why are you so mean?
So I've been pigeonholed for my own good.
Well,
Yes.
They will
yes.
take better care of my health if they can pigeonhole me into
Well, it's not
So
even-
long as you pay for it through Obamacare or something.
It's actually
like that.
more insidious, like David says. They don't really care if you're taken care of better. When you get older, we don't need to take care of you better because of the group. It's not about we're going to take care of you better.
And
We're
we are
sacrificing
seeing the-
you at the end. That's
And
all.
Tom, we are seeing the laws to back that up.
Oh,
That
yeah.
is where the laws are going. Right now, it's kill the little kids right after they've come out of the womb, or
their own
if
good.
they're incompetent, a little older. We're going to see it on the elderly. We've seen it already with euthanasia laws. Not that you don't have the right to kill yourself, but the assistance and the granting people the ability to kill others.
Well, I was told by the Democrats that the world's going to be a terrible hellscape in about 10 years. So it's actually a mercy.
We were already told that 10 years ago. So,
But they're right this time. That's what's different.
Okay,
David.
so I'm on a board of a big mental health advocacy group, and we're having a board meeting last Thursday night, and it came to our attention, one of the things we have in our agenda, our goals, is to have a library there of resources. It came to our attention that we don't have the latest diagnostic manual called DSM-5. This is the Bible on diagnosing mental health and behavioral conditions. And so I made a motion that, we go ahead and spend the money to have that as a reference there at our office. I won't say who, to try not to pick on my fellow board members, but somebody objected saying, but then you might have people self-diagnosing instead of going to the professionals.
As
And
if
I'm
they-
like,
oh boy.
Yeah, I used to belong to a church that said, you can't read the Bible for yourself, you need one of our clergy
Right.
to help you, or you might get it wrong. You
Let's
know?
base law on what people might do wrong.
But-
Good idea.
But here's the problem. They're all saying, we gotta educate the people, we gotta educate the people. No, they don't want to educate us, they want to control us.
Right.
Right.
That's right.
Here I'm trying to buy the best manual for the best information and make that available to the public. They don't want that.
Right.
They want somebody from their guild to get collecting dollars.
Unfortunately, about 80% of the public doesn't want it either. They want the push-button utopia of laziness themselves. It's only the
Very true.
20% of the pilot fish that lead the rest of us to the liberty. Any other comments before we wind up on this healthcare issue?
I love it. I love the direction that things
I
are
love
going.
health and care.
Well,
They're good.
no, I mean, I love what David is saying
Yeah.
because it's perhaps the most personal thing you have is your own body.
Right.
And they are violating it with their regulations, which means prohibition in this case.
Yeah.
Hey, you can't use XYZ drug unless you have the sign off of the professionals first.
If I've learned
And-
anything by reading the HuffPost, it's that truth is derived by a large number of people agreeing on a thing.
Yeah.
And if they're experts, it's twice as true.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, mind you, I am not subscribing or promoting that you don't get good professional
Right.
help if you need it. But if you can do it on your own, if you've been there or whatever, you have the information. So many people, how many friends do I have that know more than the professionals
Yeah.
about their vaccine injured children or whatever?
David, close us out.
The power to withhold medicine or treatment is the power to kill.
Well, that power is given to government through public opinion. The only way to change who gets what and does what they're going to do is through public opinion. Because we allow and encourage government to control us. We want them to do it. And what we've got to do is get our fellow brothers and sisters to agree with us that we want to be self-governed and not control. I'm Tom McKay. We're going to cut it off at this exit on 3D Politics. We're going to take a break. Hi folks, I'm Tom McKay. We're back with 3D Politics. I've got David Van, David Oldham, and David D'Ambroso. We're going to move into the topic of state income tax elimination.
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
That's part of the Oklahoma State Republican Party platform now.
Tell us.
And we know that the Republican Party has certain tenets that Republican politicians follow to the letter.
Okay.
And now they're going to be eliminating the state income tax for sure.
Well, you sure sent that one off on a sale.
All right. So the convention hasn't met. So this is in the platform committee at the moment.
You want specifics about this, Alden?
Oh my God.
But the thing is that I would be all for it. But I guarantee you will pay just about as much tax as you have been
I'll
paying.
take that bet. I was guaranteed that President Trump wouldn't be our president, that he'd be wearing an orange jumpsuit at this point.
Unless you
Promise.
change
see.
what they are spending on.
Well, I mean, tactically, it gives you an opportunity to be there at the restructuring. All it does is guarantee a restructuring where some of the bureaucrats and politicians try to gather their shekels back.
Oh,
Okay.
And
Now,
you're
the
part of that
I love
process.
the idea.
Okay, to clarify, you were at the Republican Party state platform
Platform
committee,
committee.
subcommittee meeting, right?
Right.
Okay, now you've got to go to the next one, which is meeting of the whole, committee of the whole.
Right, and then the
And-
actual state.
And then the state convention,
Yep.
where the convention floor will have a vote, discussion, and they may pick it apart more. Wouldn't it just be easier if we let you decide what we stand for? Are you up to it?
That's 4 years from now. No, that's 12 years from now. That's after Trump is elected emperor, right? Or selected. No, but the process is a little bit faster. So the platform committee will meet again, but essentially it's what we've already agreed upon is essentially set in stone. At this point, no one's wanting to go backwards. So it is possible, and then simply we're going to have an up or down vote on that platform, ideally second one of the convention. So that will be, I'm pretty confident. I'd put the odds at 90%, you know, that this will be the platform.
Did it carry strongly
Yes.
in the committee? Okay.
Yeah. It was, there were 0 names.
Oh, okay.
So I amended the plank. Initially, it was the lie that we always believe as conservatives that we're fed by the media and the Democrats that if we repeal something, we have to replace it with something almost as bad. No, repeal and repeal. Okay, if it's unconstitutional, you don't like it, repeal it. Get rid of it.
Well, there
didn't
was
exist before. So
there was an effort about 5 years ago, if I remember right. OCPA and that's Oklahoma Council for Public Affairs and Americans for Prosperity, Oklahoma bunch, had put together this effort to phase us out of income tax and replace it with other things. And they had Kansas on that same roadmap. Texas, of course, was our model, somebody who's close to there, and Florida.
You may have heard of Texas. They do.
And that was on its way until we had the silly little recession, and the legislature ran out of money like 3 years in a row. And so it got stalled out, and now you are restarting it.
I guess, and we've got folks like you around that are walking encyclopedias and historians to give us this timeline. But it's just the wheel of history.
And you're so much more free because you don't have to think about what didn't work last
time. Well, not yet. I'm accumulating thanks to you, jerk.
Bam! Like a dual processor here.
And again, like I was saying earlier, it's not going to change unless they change what they spend on.
Yeah.
Because the bucket of money, unless it shrinks,
that's our end.
Is not going to nothing.
Now we have a seat at the discussion for the restructuring, essentially. So it used to say something like, eliminate state income tax and replace it with some kind of fair tax or something like it.
But you hate children and old.
And now we just
the elderly.
I had a motion to amend it and just say place a period after eliminate state income tax.
Yeah.
So they're going to want it in different ways, and that's okay. I mean, obviously we have an objective and we make moves to get to that objective.
But hats off, for submitting it and motioning it and getting it supported like that. That's how they all start, right? Yeah. It's only a handful of people that really move and shake. I'm Tom McKay. We're going to be back with 3D Politics right after this. Hi folks, we're back with 3D Politics. We're going to move on now with David D'Ambroso. David, what have you got for us?
Well, has anyone heard about this investigation into Russian collusion?
I've heard about it.
Has anyone heard about it?
Oh, it's terrible.
I was very concerned. I heard that Hillary Clinton got $142 million from Russia.
It's a lot.
In order to give them 20% of our uranium. And so I'm very pleased that there's been a 2-year investigation conducted into the Trump family about this matter. So
because he donated to her at one point. Yeah, so
that's true.
Maybe that's how he colluded.
That is proof of his collusion.
Was it to her for her Senate campaign?
Hillary can't
I don't actually know.
Does that make her a proxy for Russia? I mean, so I guess he probably is maybe guilty of some kind of Russian collusion if he's ever had any dealings with
Hillary. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. My question is, when are we going to exact a punishment on this abuse of our law for a clearly political attempt to take down the president?
My opinion is, and I hope I'm wrong about this, I'm pretty cynical of a person, so I'm very pleased whenever I'm wrong, but I almost feel like the Republicans, at least of yesteryear, I hope this is not the case of this current Congress, but they're either complicit with the actions of the left or they're just too incompetent to oppose them in any way. And I mean, if there are massive arrests and investigations after this, I will be very upset. And I'd say it's time to figure something else out.
Okay, whose job is it to take the initiative and start on this? Barr, a new AG? I guess it starts with him.
I mean, I guess, you've got this congressional subpoena power. That's a good start. I guess Barr could launch some investigations.
Congressional subpoena power? You mean Congress? You're expecting Pelosi to take charge here?
Well, I mean, it might be nice if some Republicans subpoena some folks.
The people have to rise up to their representatives, make the call, write the letter, put the pressure from the bottom up to where it finally gets
I also think that there's some state charges that should be brought and can be brought because although these were done for federal officers, they were done in the various states. And I think that there are all sorts of charges that could perhaps come from states.
It seems like some information was illegally obtained. There were no wiretaps, and there were wiretaps, and of course we've got Strzok and Page reporting directly to Obama on this matter. So we've got known trumped-up charges. We've got a questionable dossier, which seems to. Now, I'm not a Democrat, so I won't make an emphatic statement without knowing it to be so. Seems like McCain had something to do with it, and Hillary Clinton paid for the Steele dossier. This seems to be the information we have, so we just don't know, and I think we need to have at least a 700-day investigation into everyone who's ever spoken to Hillary Clinton, Lisa Page, Peter Strzok, Comey, McCabe, Mueller, etc. I mean, is that insane? What do we think about that?
Yeah.
700 days.
You know, one of the you said in previous episodes that the politicians are cowards, and if they
Absolutely.
are cowards, then the only thing that they're going to move on is fear. And
Yeah.
so they have to fear the electorate more than they fear whatever choices they're going to make to correct the situation.
We're creating
Yeah.
the political will for this
Yeah.
action. As soon as
But-
you raise the alarm on social
Yeah.
media and to your friends and family, you get a little bit upset about it, and then you create some kind of path to action, it'll catch fire.
Yeah, I think Oldham's onto something here. If you got a good state attorney general who says, you know what, some of this took place in our domain, and by God, we're going to step up. I think that could literally shame the Justice Department into acting.
Well, you know, the governors get together on a regular basis.
Yes.
What about the state attorney generals getting together in the different states
They also
that
do.
are? So there's
Well, they get together, but they don't have constitutional authority as an organization.
no, but they could build their networking and similar states
Oh, yeah.
with similar attitudes.
And they
to push in
do.
that
They do.
direction.
Attorney generals of the different states do work
Right,
together.
right.
Yes.
Well, I'm just curious, what specific action would Hunter take here in the state of Oklahoma?
Well, it would have to be something that took place here or involved our assets.
Well, it could. I don't know what the statutes are, the federal statutes or even ours. But you got to stop and think about all of the criminal activity has affected Oklahoma, and therefore, if our attorney general doesn't step up for our rights that are being disenfranchised, for our tax money that's been gone to the wrong places, and this, that, and the other thing, then there is something wrong with our attorney
Maybe
general.
stand up with-
Now the question is there something that he can do?
An illegal action to remove our duly, our legally
Yeah.
elected president.
Yeah. Well, case in point, when the attempt was made to assign Bill Clinton in this relationship with Monica Lewinsky, Linda Tripp was involved. She had recorded some things. Some people who didn't like that decided they were going to make a move, and I believe it was Maryland's Attorney General considered charging Linda Tripp with wiretapping.
Yeah, except they were a one-party state, so that didn't.
Okay, I know something on that, but see, the left is not ashamed and not afraid to do these things.
What are the laws on tapping the president of the United States without his knowledge, I wonder?
Yeah,
No different than anybody else.
it shouldn't be.
I
Yeah.
mean, it shouldn't be, but
I wonder what those laws are in the District of Columbia, though. I
Yeah.
wonder if that's single
I
party.
mean, when somebody
wonder.
on the right says, hey, let's do nullification here of federal law, they get called a nut job.
Right.
But California's doing it right now.
That's the problem. We care about process and propriety. The left just doesn't.
well, no, nullification is process and propriety.
I know.
It's about doing it on the right things. California is doing it unconstitutionally. We need to do
Firearms,
it for anything
legal
that's constitutional.
immigrants.
Yes, when they go around wanting to confiscate guns, when they go around creating unconstitutional laws, when they go around becoming a the immigrants,
The illegals.
the illegals,
Sanctuary state.
sanctuary state.
Sanctuaries,
When they become that is
What would happen if we did that for
illegal,
guns?
unconstitutional nullification.
What if Tulsa became a sanctuary city for automatic rifles? How do you think that would go over?
Yeah. Well, here's my thing. The final point on this is what David was talking about in our first segment about you can regulate, you can't prohibit. Remember, that's what Supreme Court's telling us on Roe versus Wade. The Webster case in Missouri, they said, okay, we'll allow that regulation, but it can't be any more restrictive than that, or it becomes prohibition, and therefore you're denying somebody a constitutional right. Let's flip it around. That same thing applies on other issues. If it's a right, you can't prohibit it. You may be able to regulate, depending on what
It only applies to the extent that it's applied by bureaucrats and politicians and the executive branch. So that's really the issue. It really is under the entire discretion of prosecutors, lawmakers, police.
Yes, and that's where getting the word out so that we can put the pressure on them is so important.
We'll come around with a whole nother episode sometime and talk just about state nullification of federal law at some point. I'm Tommy K with all three Davids. We'll be back with 3D Politics right after this. Hi, I'm Tom McKay. We're back with 3D Politics. We're going to move further into this topic of state funding.
Yeah. Well, what I wanted to say, people see the right as just not wanting to pay taxes. And we don't care about all of these good things our government does so much better than we can, right? And they can spend their money better than we can. But no, here's the other point. In order to keep our taxes down, we got to cut spending. Oldham's correct on that, but there's more to the component there. That isn't even our result, our intended goal.
Right.
What our intended goal is to restore liberty. And the only way you restore liberty is by keeping government as small as possible.
I think you meant to say creating a Department of Liberty.
I might say
Special
some-
boards and commissions.
sometimes they try to infringe on our liberty in the name of saving money.
Try.
And a lot of times, I'll suggest, I'm really wanting to save liberty, not money. They'll do things to combine, or a lot of times they want to put the city county together. Things where they smash stuff together to save money, and really
They want to create opportunity zones, special
Sure,
government
that's-
that actually has some
They have
liberty.
something like that in China. I think it's
But
called
my counter is that sometimes spending money is how we save liberty. We don't always just shrink the.
That's true.
Okay.
If there was just one health insurance, they claim that it would be lower cost, right?
Yeah.
And I was being a bit facetious with David about, if they would just let you pick our platform, how much more efficient would that be?
Well,
What you get
sure.
done, right? All of these things that we call liberty mean respecting people and allowing people to have a part in the system.
Affording liberty.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
Because we're run by bureaucrats, and as I always joke, our betters, right? They are looking at making their job as easy as possible. They're not looking at maximizing your liberty or economic efficiency. They're looking at having less paperwork to do. They're looking at having better mechanisms by which to implement control. They really don't, and so that's really the issue.
Yeah.
Well, and it's not so much that they're looking to have the bureaucrats have less to do. It's that the legislature is lazy. They don't put in the effort
Everyone
to
at
make
every
sure
level
that,
of government.
that nobody's rights are violated and so
Yeah.
forth in everything that goes on. Go ahead.
Some laws, like the silly law that says I have to have this card, this driver's license, it doesn't mean that I'm going to kill people if I don't have one. It doesn't mean that I'm going to smash up everything. This is what's called a law of government convenience. It's a law that says I have to go out and get these and have it with me at all times in case I'm ever stopped. I have to have it only to make it more convenient for the government to watch out and make sure I don't harm somebody.
Right.
In
Well,
reality,
supposedly, but they use it all the time.
but did you ever need this when you drove your horse and buggy? No.
or your bicycle.
Or your bicycle? Yeah, or all these
Well,
other
listen, at least we know that government always uses everything for its stated and intended purpose, and they never go one step beyond.
Yeah.
So that's good to know.
Yeah, I believe the federal government said when they instituted Social Security, they said it is against the law to use this number for any other intended purposes.
It was specifically used to say on your Social Security card, cannot be used for identification purposes.
The problem is, which I think a lot
I
of
still have
people
mine. Yeah,
understand, is it's law by fiat. The law is what they say it is. The law is as the enforcer interprets and as the enforcer wills. So this creates a set of issues where we really require limited governance. We really require responsible government employees. We really, it's not just something that we would like, it's a necessity to continue in a free society.
Tom, I got a question for Alden.
All right.
For the district attorney or for the local cop on the beat, when he says, I have no choice, but I must enforce these laws. This book was not written by me, but my job, I have no choice. I have to enforce everything in it. What say you?
No, he actually has a duty to not enforce unconstitutional law. In fact, police officers should be taking an oath to the Constitution to uphold the Constitution, just like everybody else. I don't believe so. I have looked up Tulsa's oath for sworn officers, and it refers back to upholding the statutes and the municipal code and obeying their superiors in the force. But I don't believe it. I don't remember. It's been a while since I read it. I don't believe it mentioned the Constitution one iota.
How about the State Law Enforcement Academy, CLEAT, they call it?
Right.
I don't know that there's an oath that you take at CLEAT. I think that comes when you actually sign on to the job. And that would be for the different departments. So I would recommend it. People go out and look up your own state department.
We know when people
Contact
take an
us
oath.
and let us know what they say. You're for your municipality.
You know, some of, as we wind out of this next segment, some of this ambiguity in law is part of what I think gives us some freedom. If it were lock, stock, and barrel and everybody knew what the rules were everywhere all the time, there'd be no wiggle room. Some of this vagary of not knowing exactly who's got what authority where at all times is part of what allows us to remain a little bit free. I'm Tom McKay with all three Davids right here on 3D Politics. We're going to be right back after this.
That's so sad that the only way we have freedom.
Hi kids, I'm Tom McKay and we're back with 3D Politics. We're going to move on now with David Olin. What have you got for us?
Well, as a segue to what we were just talking about, there is a serious problem in that we have many laws that are actually unconstitutional. Now, they're in the state, and they may even have support from state constitution, but they are nonetheless unconstitutional because they violate the federal constitution, namely our Bill of Rights.
Okay.
And with Pawhuska, that's a prime example. We have the right to use substances, whatever it is, as long as we're not harming others, as long as we're not defrauding others, as long as we're not selling things as safe when in reality they're poisonous or whatever.
Right.
As long as we're not using them in manners that they shouldn't be used. So we might have rat poison, but I'm not supposed to be giving it to David here. You know,
Right.
that sort of a thing. And so committing crimes with it. And we have, unfortunately, all too many laws that are coming up that are violating this very principle. And we see it with that, but we see it in another case, and that is SB 925. 924 is coming due, and we need to get the word out because the writers of this bill are now going to force nursing homes and care centers to actually put up a note warning people that they need to get the flu shot.
So hold on. The topic is Senate Bill
924.
924 dealing with
Vaccinations.
vaccinations.
That you have to put up that vaccinations are necessary and available, and then you can perhaps put up other information if you so choose. But you have to put up the first bit of information that flu shots especially are available and necessary. And that violates the rights not only of the patients but of the the care center owners, and in being forced to put up something that they may or may not agree with, and incomplete information. So we have all sorts of things being done by the state that are not consistent with our Bill of Rights.
Have you tried writing a letter to your congressperson,
Well, this would be the state, and we are reaching out to
your state congressperson?
the state. It's now at the State House, and yes, that is going out. Carol Bush has been receiving all sorts of mail.
Very good.
That was the Will Rogers suggestion. Write to your congressman. Even if they can't read, write to him anyway. Yeah.
Even if they haven't read the Constitution, go ahead and make that appeal.
I do want to say, it's funny, the last couple of years they've been going after the kids. Gotta force the kids, gotta force the kids. Notice this pivot here. Now we're going to the elderly.
Yep.
Now we're gonna go, pump them.
Anybody who's 17% of the population or less, typically.
Are
They do that with the
kids,
curfew and the teenagers
And smoking.
and
Do
smoking.
they have rights though? I mean, aren't there rulings that minors do not have the same constitutional rights that adults have?
It depends. In a world where we afford rights and protection to groups, maybe not.
Well, if you're in Delaware and you're an incompetent child, then they're actually declaring. There's a bill right now to promote euthanasia of such people, so long as a social worker signs off.
Incompetent child.
As long as the Asians come in
Some
legally.
redundancy.
I've got five. Maybe I could work.
You've got some
on
oversight on that fella. I have no concerns.
Incompetent child. I thought he'd grow out of it. Boom. Any comments about any other? Can you guys think of what's your favorite unconstitutional reality?
I'm still focusing on incompetent or incontinent.
And
I don't know which one they grow out of.
Well, they say when a comedian tells a joke, it ends up with Congress, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the voters vote and we end up with a joke.
Yeah.
And the Congress then tries to write a law and it becomes a joke. And we all got nothing but jokes by a bunch of amateurs.
That's true, but then we got cops who will drum it over your head.
And
They're not legal
that's-
experts, they're in a precarious position. I mean, they'll say this. I mean, even when you ask legal experts, this is my favorite question, asking any judge or district judge or panel of judges, how many laws am I subject to? Next time you see a judge, make sure to ask him, how many laws? Can you, if I gave you a week, could you get back with me
Yeah.
on an answer? How many laws? So then, if ignorance of the law, right, is no escape from the responsibility of that knowledge, how in the world are we supposed to exist?
Yeah. Yeah.
well, it becomes a matter of arbitrary enforcement. Regardless, if you have so many laws that you can no longer keep track of the laws, you're definitely ignorant of some law all the time, then now it's just arbitrary enforcement. Hey, on that note, we're going to take a quick break with 3D Politics. We'll be right back after this message. Hey everybody, my name's Tom McKay and I'm here with 3D Politics, and I've got all three Davids here in Oklahoma that matter. I've got David Van, David Oldham, and David D'Ambroso. What's your headline today, David Van?
The collapse of the Pawhuska hemp truck case.
The collapse of the Pawhuska hemp truck
Rolls right off the
case.
tongue.
All right,
That's right.
we're going to come back around to that. What have you got for us today?
Bill of Rights rejection by the states leads to all of the tyranny that we see here in Oklahoma.
And I'm not going to repeat that. But in
I'll
the form
explain.
of a question.
See, now mine sounded good.
That was, now
I know, I'm
it does.
horrible at
Have you got a title or just quick wit for us today?
Well, I got the Mueller Report Nothing Burger.
Nothing Burger, which
0 calories.
Well, great. I'm Tom McKay. I'm your host today on 3D Politics. We're going to get started. So let's start with David Van, and we'll all get a chance to chime in, take a break, and come back with the other two topics.
All right. Well, the Farm Bill decided that they were going to include industrial hemp back in the waning days of last year. And what do you know? Test case decided to pop up in Pawhuska, Oklahoma, when a trucking company and their escort security vehicle decided to stay on Highway 82, I believe, old US Route 82 from Paducah, Kentucky, and ended up in Pawhuska, Oklahoma. So this was the Paducah to Pawhuska Express. 3 in the morning, they missed the one stoplight in Pawhuska.
Which I hear wasn't working.
Yeah, and what do you know?
That's not my fault.
There was a night shift cop that got the short straw and had to work that night, and so he pulled him over. And what do you know? One thing led to another, to another, to another, and we've got a whole semi-trailer load of industrial hemp that's en route going to Colorado. Well, they decided that this was the biggest marijuana bust in Oklahoma history, don't you know? Except that it wasn't. And the latest news on it, Friday, the district attorney decided that the 2 guys driving the truck, actually in possession of it, he dropped all charges.
Oh, really?
But the security company that was trailing along to make sure that, gets where he was, those guys are facing felony charges up to life imprisonment.
For
Still,
what?
the biggest marijuana bust in Oklahoma history.
And what's interesting is it's the security guys that were let out on bond,
Well,
and not the drivers of the truck.
let me clarify that. They had the means to make bond.
Right.
These 2 drivers who are immigrants from East Africa
Right.
did not have the means to make bonds, and they sat in there for over a month only to have their charges dropped.
Sitting in where?
The Osage County Jail.
So a really nice spot then.
Well,
That's
lovely.
only fair. That was enough hemp to kill a large city.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway,
It would be enough to hang
Okay.
hang a large city.
now the pot that you
Road.
can buy in the black market or at dispensaries averages somewhere between 12 and 25% THC. It's potent stuff nowadays.
Okay.
All of this stuff was below 1%. But as long as, according to the district attorney who was on the radio this morning, once it goes over that 0.3%,
Right.
it's marijuana, don't you know?
And so what is industrial hemp used for? If it's
The
not-
CBD oil in it is sold in all 50 states. You can buy it at your local big box store.
Okay.
Now keep in mind, 4 years ago, just one bottle of it will get you a 5-year prison sentence in Oklahoma. So we've come a ways on this. But industrial hemp's used in garment making. Used to be most of our rope was made out of hemp,
Okay.
hemp rope. And, there's just a whole bunch of things.
Plastics.
Yes.
Before petroleum products, they started making plastic out of petroleum. They made it out of cellulose fiber, and hemp was one of the biggest providers of it because it's fastest growing and the largest producing in volume. So it was used widely for everything from combs and you name.
It seems like, get my tin foil, would you?
One of our other studios decided to crank their volume.
If you have turn it up. So is this one company shipping all this shipment? Is this multiple companies shipping in one truck?
This was a farmer from way up on the northern peak of Kentucky, actually near Covington, near Cincinnati, just across the Ohio River. They had sold this shipment to a CBD processing plant in just outside of Denver, Colorado. On the bill of lading, they were told specifically there's a couple of backwoods, back-minded states. Stay out of Illinois and stay out of Kansas. So they specifically drove all the way down to the bottom of Kentucky to Paducah, came across southern Missouri, and they were supposed to drive all along Oklahoma. Now they were told, once in Springfield, get on I-44, take it to Tulsa, and then get on the Cimarron Turnpike and eventually go out through the Panhandle and go up. The truckers messed up, didn't go through Tulsa. We would have treated them better than Pawhuska did.
All right, comments before we put this thing down. Anybody?
I just feel safer already.
You do? Each time. Yeah.
I think it's important to point out from a constitutional perspective, except for the traffic stop, there was not one thing done constitutionally, and still remains nothing done constitutionally in this entire event.
What do you mean done constitution?
There is prohibition is wholly unconstitutional in any form, matter, shape.
When you say nothing has been done constitutionally, what you mean is that the authorities are acting unconstitutionally.
That's correct.
All right.
Tell
Absolutely.
that to President Wilson.
Well, and that's the point, is that they are acting as though they are being law enforcement officers when they are actually the agents of lawlessness. And it's time that we start acknowledging this, because if our Constitution is to mean anything, then we have to begin to exercise
Well,
our
let's
rights.
clarify this, because our state constitution, I believe, gives us the power to regulate on this.
Well, there's a difference between regulation and prohibition.
But it was regulated, and the law says it cannot exceed 0.3%.
No. That's where the problem is. It is a prohibition of anything above 0.3%. That is not a regulation. A regulation are like the basic rules of the road. You're prohibited from driving on the left because you're allowed to drive on the right. And the purpose of that is so that there is safety.
Okay.
Now, you are not a free person if you are disallowed
Okay.
for making the decision of using marijuana as a medicine or whatever. You are not free, and that is what is guaranteed us by the Bill of Rights.
What they did wasn't good.
So we can sell strychnine and ricin and all of these poisons as long as we...
Are not harming others. And as long as you are not selling it as something safe when it is not.
Okay, so
You
as
have to label
long as long as it was clean and we washed our hands, I'm being a little...
You know, I tell you what, this is some exciting foreplay, and we're going to be back with 3D Politics right after this.
You have been listening to 3D Politics, a replay, 3D replay from March 25th, 2019.